They won't be broken-hearted. They've got a goalless draw with the world champions. They could even argue, well, it's a start. But I think with Germany that it's gone stale. I think maybe that Jogi Löw should have gone. He's been a great coach. He won the World Cup. But there's always a time when it needs freshening up. And you look at that squad and the coach now, and it does feel a bit stale. And you wonder where Germany are going just at the moment. They've lost 4 times this year.
To your point, Ian, sorry. We go back to Spain 2014. They get bounced out of the World Cup in the group stage, and they hang on to Vicente del Bosque onto the Euros, and that didn't quite work out. It's something to learn from. Just because it went right for you for a long time, it doesn't mean that this guy continues to have the magic touch. At some point, you have to have a new voice simply because it allows that fresh start that we're talking about. This same group of players are playing for the same guy. And so whatever frustrations were back then, they still remain. Somewhere simmering underneath it all is still the frustration of whatever it was. So when Leroy Sané gets called in by Jogi Löw, it's like, no, bro, you left me out. Right. So that still hangs around. If you want a fresh start, then you have to have a new manager in place.
Yeah, we saw the exact same Germany that we saw in the World Cup. And to change it, there has to be changes. And that means not only the coach, but the player personnel as well. Everybody seems to be in this horrible little groove. Yeah. And they're just there. I mean, you talk about a team that was obvious and slow, and I mean France were on the cigars at one stage because there's just no way that they were going to be broken down. In fact, we're talking about set pieces where Germany looked the most dangerous. We normally say that about teams like Sweden and Norway, not Germany, not the world champions. So this thing needs an overhaul, and it has to come soon because nothing's changing on the field unless changes are made.
We've seen this obviously in Gareth Bale, in particular in the Euros, but impressive stuff from the Real Madrid stuff.
Gareth Bale, impressive for Wales, what's new?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's just absolutely frightening. Every single time he pulls that jersey on, he does something. And not only does he personally do something, but he seems to light a fire under the rest of the Welsh players as well. So I think he's just continuing this particular season with Wales and Real Madrid. Because he's had such a good start. So it's not really a shock. Gareth Bale excels in a Wales jersey, is it?
We've all known players in the present and in the past that they're great club players. And then they go to the national team and that jersey gets real tight. Tied to the point that they can't perform. Tied to the point that now they're nowhere near the players that we see week in and week out with their clubs. For Gareth Bale, not only is he now being productive for Real Madrid, and I think the absence of Cristiano Ronaldo has to do with that because there's a freedom about him in the way that he's playing with Real Madrid that wasn't there before. You put him in Wales and it's almost as if, yep, that's it. A big man is on campus and we're here and I'm here to stay and you're all going to come with me on this ride because I can take you places. For that, that's special. And to do it at the national team level makes it even more special.
He couldn't get them to the World Cup, though. That was the pity after their fantastic run in the European Championships. He was right at the heart of that. He loves playing for Wales. He loves playing for Wales, I think, more than anything. And it shows, I think, every time he goes out there.
So that victory puts Wales top of their group. Big questions about Ireland going forward as well. Someone has seen the back of Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane. Next up, it's Denmark against Wales on September 9th. The Roberto Mancini era as the new coach of Italy starts tomorrow as they take on Poland in the opening game of their UEFA Nations League. Paolo is with us. Paolo, you look at this. How much pressure, how big is this opening game for him?
I don't know if I'd say there's huge pressure. It's certainly a big point of interest right now for everyone looking to see how Italy are going to respond to not playing in the World Cup over the summer. Mancini has already sort of been on the warpath a little bit in the last few days. He's talked about how the lack of opportunities being given to young Italian players, and honestly, he's got some validity in that. I think when you look at his options in midfield, there's only 3 players really out of the midfielders, and you're looking at Jorginho obviously, but then Barella and Benassi, the only 3 who are actually starting regularly for their club sides. He's had to bring in guys like Pellegrini, who played 45 minutes so far for Roma this season. Cristante's barely played more than 90 minutes for Roma this season. It is a talent pool for Italy that is a lot less deep than it used to be, and sort of compounded, I guess, by the retirements of big names like Daniele De Rossi. So it's an opportunity for renewal, it's an opportunity to start over, but the options aren't as extensive, certainly, as have been available to some of his predecessors.
Balotelli, meanwhile, is back. Paolo, what can we expect?
Well, he's already been playing for Mancini in friendlies. He's obviously a guy that everyone's going to be looking at. We know he's been scoring goals for Nice, and we know that Mancini has a lot of faith in him. Mancini is being very sort of meritocratic about the captain's armband. He says that it's going to stick with whoever's the senior player on the pitch, whoever's got the most caps. Now, that'll be Giorgio Chiellini in this game against Poland. But when Chiellini was absent over the summer, there was actually a possibility that it could be Balotelli. Balotelli was one of the most capped players there. It didn't end up being him, but he's got as much chance as anyone, according to Mancini, and that gives you some indication of what the manager thinks of him. Look, everyone in Italy would love him to be the same Mancini that we saw beating Germany in this almost single-handedly in the semi-finals of a European Championship. It's been a while since he's been that player, but he has been scoring goals regularly in France. He has been playing regularly in France. He has been a productive player, and I think that's what probably we should hope for him and hope from him in this game against Poland.